Many of you are waging war against God. You have anger towards God. You have bitterness and resentment towards him because a lot of you have grown up in a household where you didn't have a father. You didn't have the love of a father. You didn't have the guidance of a parent who cared about you. Many of you were abused. You were abused physically. You were abused sexually. You were abused emotionally and verbally. Some of you have been abandoned. Some of you didn't have parents at all. Some of you had parents who were strung out on drugs, who could not properly care for you and attend to you the way you needed to. You weren't nurtured. You had to go outside and fend for your own. You had to live on your own and fend for yourselves. Some of you have grown up in poverty, dire poverty. We're very poor. And you're thinking to yourself, if there's a loving God, why would a God allow me to go through something like that? Why would a God allow me to be abused? Why would a God allow my mother to be strung out on drugs and not take care of me? Why would a God allow me to lay in bed at night and not have any food to eat, to go to bed hungry? Why would God allow me to grow up in an environment where there are drugs and people are selling drugs on the corner and they're shooting and people are getting killed and murdered around me and I'm in this chaotic situation. There's nothing I can do. Why would a God allow me to be stripped away from my parents and moved out of the home and abandoned and put in foster care and separated from my family? Why would God do this? If there's a loving God, if there truly is a God on this earth, why would he allow children to suffer and not do anything about it? And so many of you have decided in your hearts that you don't want to serve God. You have a problem with God because of your situation, because of the things that have happened to you. And you blame God for all those things, all those negative things. Your mind is saying God did those things to you because God did not care about you or God does not exist. And in the Bible it says, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. God did not do those things to you. God did not set you up to be raped in the house. God did not have someone molest you. God did not have you abandoned. He did not have you placed into foster care. God did not take your father from you and put him in prison. The thief sets all of these things up. He creates destruction in the lives of God's people. He has been waging war with the humankind from the day since God created them. He has been waging war to destroy God's creation because he does not want to serve God. He hates God. He had a vendetta towards God, and his agenda is to destroy you and to get you to be separated from God. So he plants seeds inside your mind. He puts you through these situations. He plants a seed in your mind to say, God does not love you. God does not care for you. God destroyed you. God had you grow up in poverty and bondage. God did not care for you. He had you grow up in this environment. And it's like you're waging war now with God. You're angry at God and you don't want to serve God. You want to rebel against God. You want to worship other gods. You want to worship other idols. You want to fight against his servants and prophets. You want to wage war because you see anything that reminds you of God, resembles God in your eyes. You want to destroy it because see, this is what Satan wants you to do. And now he has got a hold on you where he's controlling you. But here's what I want to tell you today. God cares about you because if he didn't, you wouldn't have breath in your lungs right now. If he didn't care about you, you wouldn't have gotten out of your situation. He wouldn't have brought you out of that bondage. He wouldn't have brought you out of that dire situation where you're in poverty. He would have allowed you to die right there. You wouldn't have continued forward. You wouldn't have moved forward. He wouldn't have allowed you to come out of that situation where you were being abused in that household. You wouldn't have gotten through it. You wouldn't have made it out of there. You would have stayed there and you would have died there. Because if God did not have his hand on your life, the devil would have accomplished his purpose of destroying you. And many of you have gotten out of poverty. You've gotten out of your situations. You've gone on to accomplish many things despite what you've gone through. And you're saying, oh, I did it. You owed it to yourself. No, God had his hand on you. He watched over you and he had a purpose for you. It says in the Bible that he will turn around everything that the devil has meant for our harm. He will turn it around for our good and his glory. And many of you have decided now that you've got your things, that you're going to turn your back on God and wage war against him. But you don't understand that it was God who brought you out of the situation. No, he did not cause it. He has said that he allowed it to happen. Because see, he might have placed people around you who did not obey. They were not obedient. He gave you a mother and a father, but if they did not submit themselves to God and walk in his obedience and his authority and get guidance from him on how to raise you, then they made mistakes and they've done things that they were not supposed to do. And you cannot point a finger at God. If he put people in your lives, families who were supposed to step up or people who were supposed to do something when you were being abused or to protect you and nurture you, he put churches around there for people for you to go to get the help you needed. He put people in leadership positions in the position of authority to come to your rescue, to write and enforce laws. But a lot of times people don't do what they're supposed to do because they're not in submission to God. And we can't blame God when things do not go as they're supposed to go. But what we can give our glory to is the God who has gotten us out of these problems. Yes, we all have trials and tribulations that we have gone through and faced and endured because Satan has set up from the very beginning. He has set up an agenda to steal, kill, and destroy. He wanted to steal from God's people. He wanted to kill them and destroy them. He wanted to destroy all of his creation. None of you are exempt from that. But the thing is, how are you going to handle this tribulation and the problems and suffering that you have overcome? Instead of getting angry at God, instead of waging war with him and fighting against his servants and all of the things that represent him, you're now on a mission to destroy his creation, destroy his children, destroy his church, destroy his people, his everything that he has put his hands to create. And you think that you're waging war against God, and you think that he's going to continue to allow you to do this. God is in control of everything. Yes, these things happen, but he let it happen for a reason. So that now he can use you for his glory. Now he can use you for his purpose. Now he can use you to fight against the very thing that tried to destroy you and ruin you. But with his grace, he's allowed you to come out of that bondage. He's allowed you to come out of that situation for you, not for you to turn your back on him and to reject him, but for you to embrace him. For you to walk with him so he can now use what you have gone through, the very thing that tried to destroy you but didn't. Now he can use that to bring you to your full level of purpose on this earth, to bring you to that full level of power. Now he can use you for the purpose of destroying the very thing that tried to destroy you. Now, are you going to let that thing keep controlling you? Are you going to allow the enemy who tried to destroy you to control you? And allow that enemy to keep you waging war and pitting yourself up against God? Or are you going to succumb to God now? Are you going to succumb to him and allow him to use you for his purpose? Are you going to let go of all the pain and the past hurts and stop pointing blame at God and start looking around? A lot of you might not want to admit it. You think grandma did everything right. Granddad did everything right. They did the best they can. But you sometimes we just have to admit that, our parents just were rebellious and they didn't do what they're supposed to do for us. Or sometimes they didn't know what to do. And they weren't following God. They weren't following his guidance and his blueprint, his path. They did not seek him, and they went in their own ways. And a lot of these things could have been prevented if people would have submitted themselves to God. A lot of this stuff would have been prevented and not happened. But at this point, God is telling you, hey, I brought you out of that. I could have allowed you to suffer. I could have allowed you to die. I could have taken you straight to hell. But did he do that? By his grace, you are allowed to wake up every single day. Every single day that you wake up, you have his grace. And you owe that to him.